Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd is our special guest. She's actually interviewed Donald Trump for decades, as well as presidents, actors, cultural icons, and more. Her new book, Notorious, is not about Notorious B.I.G., the acclaimed Brooklyn rapper, although they share that name. It draws on her writing and profiles of people who are interesting, are powerful, or are, of course, notorious. Beloved by so many readers and viewers. Your first time on The Beat. We've asked before. You're now here. I'm happy to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ari.
Great to have you.
Very nervous.
Well, it's okay. People will find that charming that you're nervous after being so established. The Pulitzer doesn't wipe it away. Let's start with the news and then go to the book. I mentioned this contrast. Smart people who seem shocked after this much time. What do you think of that, and how does that affect the sort of market reaction?
I don't know. You know, with Trump, it's like being governed by an id. I mean, his biographers always said he would get distilled to his essence, and I think he's at his essence. And
how do you view his essence, politically and in these policy choices?
Yeah, he's the mad king, the high chair king. Well, you can't say he can't multitask, because right now he was wrecking the economy. He has wrecked our relationship with our allies. He has wrecked our standing in the world. He has wrecked the Kennedy Center. He has wrecked the Oval Office. It looks like Caesar's Palace now. But today he issued an executive order making sure that the water pressure in showers was right. So the guy can do many things at once.
What does it tell us about us?
Well, you know, Americans have always been susceptible to con men, certainly. And, you know, it was funny because today was the day when it's like that scene in movies and literature where the con man, you realize the con man really doesn't have the product, you know, you're conned. And that's when the market freaked out. And the market is one of the few things he cares about. So he had to backtrack.
Yeah, and you see it in the teams he's put together, and you're around this as a longtime New York Times columnist, and you are the type of columnist who actually interviews people, talks to people, and there's different ways to do it. And we do this interview show. I've had a lot of Trump figures on. I still do. I had his former DHS chief last week, and the invites are open to the White House. And there is something really striking about what he gets out of people, even with all of this done in public. And Navarro, who literally went to prison on a Trump-fueled agenda or crusade, is now rewarded with a White House position, but then very unrewarded by becoming the sort of fall guy for all of this, with Elon Musk, if ever there were a more powerful workplace vendetta, just dragging him online and the personal insults. And then here's how the White House tried to explain it. Take a look.
Look, these are obviously two individuals who have very different views on trade and on tariffs. Boys will be boys, and we will let their public sparring continue.
It was entertaining to see the MAGA coalition of billionaires begin to fracture and go after each other. And Elon called Navarro dumb as a bag of bricks, and then he apologized to bricks.
He apologized to bricks, that's correct.
So, and then Ken Langone freaked out and Bill Ackman freaked out. But, you know, as you say, didn't they see it coming? I mean, Trump's position on tariff, that's one of the few positions he has had his whole career. So, you know, but with con men, it's a yearning in you for something. So they have their reasons. They're all transactional, and they chose him.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Steve Liesman. Steve, because we were talking a moment ago about how complicated things are for the Fed. If this is telling us that growth is going to hang in there in the meantime, I guess it makes things a little easier for them. But we're also seeing the odds of a cut at the next meeting go up to almost 90%.
At the next meeting, that's not what I have. At the June meeting, I have.
June, thank you.
For the May meeting, I have. It went down to 20%. It went down a little bit for the June meeting. I mean, look, you can say this is a relief, but there's another 90 days of uncertainty to come which is worth it. And you could also try to spin this as a victory, or you could see this as a failure of policy and leadership on the part of the White House, Kelly, in the following way. I remember the night before the tariffs were imposed and the day and that day, and I asked our great White House reporter, Megan Casella, why we had heard nothing of the plan. And the reason I asked is it because they don't know or they're not saying? And what we found out since is they didn't know. The plan was made up that day. It was not nobody on Wall Street. They didn't run it by Wall Street. They didn't run it by business leaders and CEOs. And now you could argue, after withering punishment from markets, from bond markets, trillions lost across the globe, the president, he didn't just flinch, but he ducked when it came to what was coming his way here. So they can try to spin this as a victory, and maybe they have 75 calls. Maybe they get 75 trade deals. But it just seems to me that the other way to tell this story is that the president just flinched and did not run this by the markets, run this by the business, and he was facing a deep recession. I will point out there are still trillions lost from that day, Kelly. There's still quite a bit that's been lost here in terms of where we were just on April 3rd. We're still down, way down. These 10% tariffs, the market doesn't like these either. We didn't get that back yet.
Let's bring in Citi's Scott Cronin.
Just in case you're not well acquainted with my next guest, Dave Portnoy is the founder and owner of Barstool Sports, a wildly successful media company with a particular appeal to young men, a demographic that helped Donald Trump win back the White House. Barstool Sports has nearly 50 million followers on TikTok, publishes some of the most popular podcasts in the country. Now, Portnoy's followers get a steady stream of sports content, financial advice, pizza reviews, and unfiltered and some say offensive conversations. In recent days, he has gone viral for comments about tariffs imposed by President Trump, whom Portnoy supports. Dave Portnoy joins me now. Thank you so much for being here. You have been openly questioning the president's tariff strategy. I want our viewers to see and hear what you said on Monday.
I went super viral when I said I lost $7 million. I'd kill to be back to losing $7 million. I haven't even looked. If I had to guess, I'm down in these last 3 days, probably close to 20. I don't know, like 10, 15% of my net worth, poof. But I'm still here. That's the game. That's what I'm in. Like, do I like it? No. Am I crying? Am I like, oh, woe is me. I wish I voted for Kamala. No. Do I wish this didn't go down like this? Yes.
Now, you obviously voted for President Trump. You also said that you think he's a smart guy. You are willing to give him a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. Where are you now?
So it's uncomfortable. Anytime the stock market is like this and you're invested in it, it's certainly uncomfortable. But I stand with it. He ran on tariffs. He said he was a tariff fan. And I don't pretend to be an economist. I don't think I realized that we'd have this market crash. I don't think most people did. But I think he believes in what he's doing and trying to basically strong arm China and get better deals for the U.S. I'm willing to still give him time. I think the big date is the midterms, which is a long time out. But I do think that in this country, the number one issue, no matter what is going on, is the economy. And if the stock market doesn't show some signs of rebound or rebounding by then, I think people speak with their vote. So, but I'm still... He was pretty straightforward that I'm tariffs. I don't like China. I'm going to do all this stuff. He's doing what he ran on. So to turn around just because we've had 3 or 4 bad days in the stock market, super uncomfortable. My bigger thing at this point is let's not pretend it's not a major issue. Like it is. And you can't separate. I don't think I saw the Treasury Secretary Bassett today, like separating Main Street and Wall Street.
Yes, he did.
They're pretty connected. Yeah, they're pretty connected in my book. So I don't know if he's just talking about the super fat cats, but if the stock market's tanking, we are going to have an economic meltdown over the long term. So I'm still going to give him time. He said, I think Trump said, it was a sick patient. He needed to take medicine. I'm taking my medicine, and I don't like my medicine, but I'm willing to take it. I voted for him. And in a way, it's disingenuous now to be like, hey, what are you doing with these tariffs? Because he did make it pretty clear he was a tariff guy.
He did, no question about it. There's being a tariff guy and then doing it the way he is doing it, proceeding the way he is proceeding. You comfortable with that too? Not just the policy, but the process through which he is imposing this policy?
I certainly wish he would give maybe a victory here or there right now. Like, he has the power really to turn the stock market and get it ripping. And when there's been a fake rumor or a misquote, like he's going to postpone the tariffs or whatever, if he would come out and say, hey, we did this great agreement with Japan or Vietnam, the stock market would rip. I firmly believe that. Instead, what do you say? Everyone's kissing his ass last night. But that's
right.
Trump. Like, that is how he speaks, and it does resonate in a way to people. Like, I'd almost rather feel like I'm getting straight talking, and I can't change. It's like, that's always who he's been. Do I wish maybe he was treating our friends a little nicer, our allies, and things like that? Yeah, because I'm in the stock market. But at the same time, this is who I voted for, and time is going to bear it out. He's playing an extremely high-risk game of poker. And if it turns out great, it'll be a great move and one of the great things that he's done. If not, I think the voters will speak at midterms.
There is a long time, Dave, between now and the midterms, particularly when you think about how quickly things have changed just even in the past couple of weeks with the economy. You're okay. You can just stomach this until, if it continues where it is, until the midterms?
If we drop 5% every day from here to the midterms, no, I can't stomach that. Nobody's going to stomach that.